Welcome back to another episode of Winning Small. I'm your host, Brian Holyfield. And I want to talk this week, and I've got a special guest with me, about consistency and endurance through trying times. I think this is one of the things that a lot of people don't recognize when they're starting, when they're trying to implement changes across the board, particularly in a health journey. The reality is that life is going to throw you curveballs. And if your plan only works in the best of times, then you really have a plan that's not built for anything but the best of times. And it's a pretty crappy plan. So I want to kind of break that down and saying, what does it require? What does it take to not only achieve great results? Because the reality is anybody can be fit for a little while. But what does it take to actually sustain that and endure through those hardships and through those, ups and downs, the roller coaster of life? Because that's where I think the real value is in learning from people who've been able to do it and hold on to it for a long time. So I've got a special friend and client with me, John. John has been with me, I think we just figured out, almost 3 years as a
Yeah.
client. And it's just been incredible. He's just a inspiration to me and all the things that he does, and seeing so much of his journey as a young professional and just being along for the ride has been awesome. But I want to introduce John and have him share a little bit about himself and kind of his background, because there's a lot of backstory here that I think is really relevant to understanding where he is and how he's been able to hold on to the results that he's achieved. So, John, take it away for us. Give us a little background.
Yeah, no. So I started working with Brian probably so it was 3 years ago. So I was about 23, 24. I was a junior in college. And I had this like aha moment where I went to go walk down like a flight of steps and like my leg got numb. And I was like, what? Like I can't even go down a flight of stairs without like having and hawing and like having like body parts go numb. Like that's not normal for someone who's 23.
Mm.
And just like kind of writ large, my family just has like a multitude of different health issues. My mom and dad both battle with different blood clotting things and diabetes and heart issues, and just cardiovascular health. And I started to see a lot of those things show up in my life. I was pressing like 270 and I'm 5'8". So like, that is like much higher than what somebody my age should have been at,
Mm.
and with my height. So I was like, I got to start working on this. Like, I just didn't know where to start because it's a really overwhelming thing to take on when you see like I'm 270, there's a big gap from where I am to where I want to go, and that's just overwhelming. And Brian's TikToks have been popping up because I want to say you were teaching at the time still, and I was like, this dude's cool. So I started following you on Instagram, and you were posting these health updates. I was like, I'm going to send this DM. Like it was super scary. About like kind of accepting like I need help trying to figure out where I'm going to go. We had our first call, and it was right before the start of my junior year of college. And Brian was like, John, like we're gonna figure this out. Like it's gonna be one step at a time. We're not gonna like cut you to 1,500 calories overnight and get you in the gym 6 days a week, because that's what I thought I would need to do to get to where I wanted to go. Yeah, and from there, like school started, and I would have to get to school like an hour too early because I had to walk across campus from where I was parking. So I'd get to school, I'd have to walk to the library, which was about a quarter of the way to where I needed to go to take a break. I'd walk another like quarter of a mile, take a break. Another like I had to like kind of rework my entire schedule to be able to walk across a hilly campus in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And that started to discourage me because I'm trying to do some of the changes that you would try to give to me. And I'm like, these aren't hitting just yet. And it'd been like a week or two. And I'm expecting this overnight change. Like, I think I need to stick with this. And like by the end of the semester, I'm no longer having to get to school an hour too early. Like I was getting to school at 10 a.m. for a 12 o'clock class because I couldn't just walk the 10 minutes nonstop to get there. So it's been a bit of a journey. Now I'm in my second year of teaching, and I'm definitely healthier than I have ever been, and I feel like I'm set up for success to continue that progress forward.
Yeah, no, I love that. I remember those days and those moments, and kind of thinking through like some of those early obstacles that for somebody that's listening and going, man, I need those changes as well. Like those challenges do feel large. They feel in some ways insurmountable, even with somebody walking through it with you. At the end of the day, you still have to be the one that
Yeah.
walks across the campus. You're the one that still has to get into the gym. You're the one that has to make some changes in terms of nutritional choices and stuff like that. So let's talk about food for a second, because I think that's a hot button topic.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, yeah, you didn't slash calories to 1,500, but what was effective for you? What changes did you need to make? I just remember this one picture you sent, and
Yes.
it's the McDonald's cup in the
Hmm.
foreground, and you're like, this
Honestly.
is a great picture to illustrate where my life was. Just a big old 32-ounce soda. So
Yeah.
what are some of those simple swaps that you made that really made a difference, that in your head maybe you might not have known about or paid attention to right off the bat?
Yeah, I think being mindful of just my portions. Like when I go to make dinner, I don't need to make three different sides, right? I can be okay just rocking out with one or two. Um, my go-to always was like, I want an ice cream. I want something chocolatey. I was really big on always going to McDonald's or just some fast food or eating out for every meal. And a lot of people would say to me, like, when I was like, yeah, I now have this personal trainer, and they were like, how much does this cost? And I tell them, they're like, how are you able to like fund that? And I'm like, well, honestly, that's as much as I'm spending right now on
Hmm.
fast food. Like, having just made that simple swap and like, oh, I can meal prep at home. I'm getting chicken nuggets at McDonald's anyway. I'll just make the chicken here. It is much healthier and not nearly as expensive. And I just like swap that cost and just like putting just normal chicken into my body instead of the processed, like who knows what is coming out of the McDonald's drive through. And I still have my moments where like, oh yeah, I can actually breathe a little bit. And if I want to have some sort of snack here or I want to go out to eat, I can. And I think that was a big game changer for me because I'm like looking at myself at 270, like, I don't know how I got here. And
Hmm.
I realize it's because I make these horrible food choices. And I think I have to make these radical differences. I need to go vegan or keto or something. And you were just like, John, like, you can still like eat the stuff you want to eat. We just have to work on like spacing it out a little bit and how much you're indulging
Hmm.
and just make sure we're looking at those macros. So like going to like the meal prepping on Sundays instead of getting like a Lego Eggo waffle or whatever in the morning, set up time to like just make some eggs, throw some egg whites in. I'll be the first to say I don't really like vegetables. I actually hate them. But a way I'm able to get those in is by like taking spinach or mushrooms or something and putting them in my eggs in the morning where I don't really taste them. And like incorporating like just like turkey sausage or something and putting some collagen or protein into my coffee. Like those small changes that like I'm drinking the coffee anyway and I'm not going to chase the additional like stuff I'm putting in there that's good for me. Eating the vitamins and just slowly adding those changes in over time, which you were really good about. Like the first week I don't think I made any dietary changes because you wanted to see where I was.
Hmm.
Get a good baseline before just jumping into starting to make those gradual changes.
No, yeah, I think there's a lot of value there between. I love what you said, and it's something as a principle I think that is really applicable to everyone. Is what are some things you can add to the things you're already doing? A lot of
Yeah.
times we think we have to subtract and take out all these things
Mm,
and cut, cut, cut. And the reality is, a lot of times there's things we're already doing that we can just add a little component to it. Add some veggies in, add some, like you said, add some collagen to your coffee. Like add, and we think about all the things we have got to lose and take away. But what are the rhythms that you already have established that you can start to add in those things? And I think as well for you, one of the big pieces I think has been, and you can contradict me if you want to, but I think one of the big pieces that has helped you has been increased movement and activity.
oh, yeah.
And I think that's another value add. A lot of times people think, well, I've got to lose all this time because I've got to go to the gym and exercise and do all this cardio. And I think your mindset was far more, I'm going to value add walking movement into
Mhm.
my day, into my daily routine as something that boosts my mental focus, that improves my overall mental health. And
Yeah.
talk to us about that and kind of some changes you made in terms of movement.
Yeah, I mean, I would spend hours just sitting on the couch or sitting in bed watching TV or playing my video games. I'm like, why am I not losing weight? Well, I'm not moving. And when I would go to move, initially, it was really difficult. Like, Brian started me just like going to the gym, like whenever I could find time, and I would go to do these just like simple band workouts, and those left me so winded. Um, he's like, well, John, one way you can start to work on that a little bit to like increase the oxygen is like if you just want to like go out on simple walks. And I'm thinking I need to be going on like 10-mile runs, like I see these idealistic people on Instagram doing. He's like, no, just walk. And so I would just do that in the evenings when I would normally be watching TV, thinking I'm going to come up with these great ideas on how I'm going to, address this student need or come up with this project idea. Just go outside for a few minutes, go walking. And I remember one of the first walks I did, it was just a mile, but it was so difficult. And I was like, this doesn't feel like it's helping my body. But I'm thinking to myself as well, like, doing the right thing is never going to be bad for me. Like, I'm doing the right stuff, then the results will show. And then I was able to start tacking on miles. And now, routinely in the evening, when I would normally just be sitting around doing nothing, really, I'm going out and typically getting between 3 to 5 miles in. And that's when I'm able really to like detach myself from the world and just like sit there with my podcast or my music and start to think through stuff. And when life starts to get crazy and it feels overwhelming, I reflect. I'm like, it's because I'm not taking time for myself. I'm not taking time to go walking. I'm not taking time to be mindful. And when I reintroduce that back in just the simple mindfulness and the walking, my life just feels better because it feels like something I can control. I can control how fast I'm going to go today, how far I'm going to go, what I'm going to think about, what I'm going to try to focus on. And that's especially like the last like year with my first year teaching, that's really been helpful because the job feels super stressful. So having that time just to like have it be me. No one's calling Mr. Bordash and my mom isn't messaging me, John, I need help with this. It's just me and my thoughts. And coupling that with movement, like it's a win-win.
No, yeah. And I think you said it so well. And I think that's something that I want to reiterate. If you're doing something that's good for you, it's never bad for you.
Yeah.
If you're doing
Honestly.
if you're doing something that's good for you, even if the results don't follow visibly,
Mm-hmm.
there's still those ripple downstream effects. And I think about all those hours that you've spent walking. Those are hours that you didn't spend eating.
Yeah.
Those are hours you didn't spend mired in the situation that you were in, feeling like, oh, this is too hard, this is too challenging, the season of life with
Mm-hmm.
family and school or young professional life, this is just too difficult. Those are times where instead of being stuck in those situations and turning to other things for coping, you're actually found a really healthy coping mechanism for an outlet
Yeah.
for that stress and for those mental challenges, while at the same time being a great physical addition and add on to your life. Why wouldn't we pursue those opportunities? And I think a lot of times people think of fitness as this stuff that you've got to, add and pile to your schedule. And after work, I've got to go to the gym. And after this, I've got to, and the reality is a lot of times it's just simply making those swaps out from unhealthy coping skills to healthy coping skills. And then we hit, like you said, it's a win-win on both sides of the issue, because it does afford you the space to be more mindful. It does afford you the opportunity to move your body. It does afford you the space to actually think through what you're thinking instead of being stuck, because motion is lotion, right?
Yeah, no, one of the like growing up, like I always struggled with reading, right? And like as I've gotten into like my 20s, I'm like, I really want to get better with reading, but me sitting down with a book, oh, it's like it feels like that's a bridge that is too far for me. And then I get mad at myself that I'm not this amazing reader. But when I'm out on these walks, like I could just throw an Audible book on and bada bing, like I'm now getting the content, like it yet again just kind of piles on, like I'm moving and I'm doing something that like I want to be able to do, but the ways that I know how to do it feel too difficult, like sitting down and like thumbing through pages. And I can just listen to my Audible book and walk a few miles. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I want the walk to end because I want to know what happens next.
Yeah, no, no, yeah. So there's kind of this pattern that's emerged, as you're telling your story, of money that was going here,
Mm-hmm.
swapped where that was going, right?
Yeah.
Mental capacity that was going here, swapped where that's going. Um, Physical energy that was going nowhere, actually going somewhere.
Yeah.
And so making now those swaps, again, it doesn't have to be like the biggest thing you've ever done. It just has to be effective. And that's where I think you've really, really thrived. So as we're thinking about this idea of being consistent through a lot of challenges and through curveballs that life throws at you. Like you said, you were a junior when you started working with me. You then had student teaching, your
Yeah.
first job placement, where you are now,
Mm-hmm.
some family stuff that's gone on. So whatever you're willing and able to share, you've been through relational difficulties,
Yeah.
professional difficulties, and just a lot of life change. What has really stuck? What has really allowed you to, because you said you're at 270
Hmm.
and you've lost 60, 70 pounds, right? And you've held that consistently, and you're in the gym consistently, and you're getting stronger consistently.
Yeah.
Um, so what's allowed you to hold on to those wins even with all of these changes in life? Because I think a lot of times that's where people they get thrown off. They're going along, they're plugging along nicely, they got their routine, one simple change of work, change
Hmm.
of schedule, and then their whole thing is out the window, and it's 3 years before they get back on the horse. So what has allowed you to kind of shapeshift through those seasons?
Yeah, and like, and if I'm upfront, like the last 3 years haven't been easy. I mean, the number of times I've told Brian, like, I'm ready to get back on the horse because I've deviated a little bit, something has happened. Like, little did I, like, I got started working with Brian this summer about 3 years ago, and then a few weeks later, this relationship I had been in for years ended, and I'm like, oh, whoa. Like, that is a traumatic thing to go through. And like the last 3 years, like my mom has been in and out of the hospital with such intense level medical issues. We have heart attacks, we have blood clots, we have all these different things. And as these things happen, like I feel like I don't have time to go to the gym because I need to go drive to be with my mom. I don't have time. I don't want to go to the gym because I want to stay in bed and just cry. I want to go to a bag of Doritos that feels so good in the moment. Um, and then I reset myself and I realized like the way I'm able to work through and process through these things is by being active and taking that mindfulness. Like, I want to say recently, my mom was just in the hospital and I had no time to go to the gym. I was driving back and forth to Maryland, which is about 3 hours from where I'm at now, every day to be with her. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm able to maintain my health stuff right now. Like, I'm eating food on the road, I'm not going to the gym. But as I'm sitting in the hospital and not much is going on, I'm like, I'm just gonna do a lap around the hospital wing. Like, why not? Like, that's 20 minutes. I'm moving that. Otherwise, I'm just sitting here. I can be more mindful about the food I'm getting while I'm at the gas station. Is it the best? No, but like, I need food.
Hmm.
And then having a support system. The support system I had going into all of this, these were people that they see me start to change and I feel like it's a little bit of envy. Like, oh, John, you're losing weight. Like, what's your secret? Oh, that's not attainable for me. Like, the person you're working with has never been the size I've been, right? They don't know what it's like to be fat. They don't know what it's like to like work a crazy long job or something like that. And I'm realizing like those are just excuses. And when I start to like allow myself to believe in those and like put myself into that box, like, oh, these are the things that are going to bound me in here. Like, this is why I'm never going to be able to progress. I'm not moving as fast in the gym. Like, initially, I would be so sore at the gym, and I'm just doing these basic like band workouts. Like, how am I ever going to lift a dumbbell or a barbell or use a leg press machine? But again, it was that idea of doing something that's good for me will never hurt me. Like, it will continue to push me forward. And finding a new support system of people that are like, John, like, you lost like a pound or two this week. Like, I think growing up having like the Biggest Loser on TV, we think we need to be losing 5 or 7 pounds a week to be marked with success. And my family, like, everybody's morbidly obese. So like they're like, John, you only lost a pound this week. Like, it doesn't seem like you're making a good investment. Like, man, I lost a pound, but that's a pound. Like, that's stuff I didn't lose before. So when I start to have a lot of interactions like that, I just have to reset myself and focus on the support systems I have found. And that's what allows me to stay consistent. Like, my weight loss chart and the body fat chart, it is not a straight line down. Like, there are a lot of divots up and then we go back down and then a divot up. But those divot ups I have are not nearly as high. Like, I've gone from 270 to 200 and I've maintained that for the last 3 years. Even now, when I'm like, God, like I wish I was 175 and I had 6 pack abs. It's like I've been able to maintain the last 3 years at the weight that I'm at because I found things that have worked for me. Going into
Hmm.
the gym 6 days a week and doing 2 a day workouts, that's not sustainable or maintainable for me. Maybe for a day or two, but like when I then don't hit that, I'm then going to be upset with myself. And then I'm just going to push the gym further away because now that feels more unattainable. So really getting those um, maintainable and sustainable goals in front of me and a support system around me has allowed the consistency to flow.
Yeah, and I think that's the important of recognizing seasons and phases.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this a lot where like, hey, this is a season of life right now where yeah, you're just getting started with student teaching. There's a
Yeah.
lot on your plate. You still got coursework, you've got
Hmm.
expectations to meet from your supervising teacher, from all these different voices, and you're trying to just do the best you can. And it's a stressful and a difficult situation. So, hey, yeah, in this season, we're going to lower the bar a little bit. Not to say, oh, we're abandoning your goals or abandoning, the intentionality. We're going to be intentional through this season by being
Hmm.
cognizant of the situation that you're in and making adjustments and swaps and finding what sticks and moving things around. Same thing with the workouts. You've seen a variety of different, like you said, starting off with pretty much body weight and band work,
Hmm.
to then moving into full barbell squats and bench press and deadlifts and all these different things. There was a progression there.
Yeah.
And there's seasons where we say, hey, it's time, let's just get back to the basics. Let's go back to some dumbbells and some of the basic things that we know, and let's rebuild from there. And then we can get a little bit more as your capacity goes up. Then we can tap into that more. When your capacity is low, let's drop things down. Let's lower the expectations a little bit. Still pushing in order to maintain, but seasons of maintenance are actually really, really positive.
Yeah.
And then as your capacity goes up, so let's say 4 years from now, you're in a whole different position in life. You're in an entirely different environment in terms of, career, and in terms of like, just your skill set and all these different ways. As we mature, we just get more efficient in certain things. And it might be that that's when 4 years from now, that's when you can really get after it more in terms of like what your, ultimate, dreams are, in terms of like, I want to run a marathon, or I want to, whatever those things are. It might be okay. It might be a great vision, but it might not be now. It might come later. But you've got to do the legwork now in the season that you're in when it's hard so that you have the capacity to do it later. Because if you take the next 4 years off and then your capacity goes up, your body's not going to be where it needs to be. And you're going to have a lot of time that you spend just trying to build back up. And that's a frustrating season. So, really, what I think stands out from your story is doing it when it's hard
Yeah.
and doing it consistently when it's hard so that you can actually have those weeks where you do lose 4 pounds in that week.
Yeah.
That's not every week, but it
No.
is some of the weeks. And that's just an extra thing that you can celebrate.
Yeah, and like go like there's this saying like if you're sad, do it sad or something along those lines. Like if I don't want to go to the like just show up. Like if you count yourself out by not even showing up, you've already lost. But if you show up, then great stuff has the potential to happen, but you can't even tap into that if you're not there. So like there have been plenty of mornings when I've gone to the gym tired, angry, sad, and just feeling all of these things. But that then also gives me an outlet to work through that, and then I'm not binging the Doritos or the Oreos or the ice cream. Then I'm gonna
The Oreos.
and that was the crux, I think, like the first year, I'm like, Brian, I just want more Oreos today. Like I need to cut this out. And
I
it
don't
took
remember. We had several conversations about Oreos.
at depth. And it took me a good year, like hearing it repeatedly, like, yeah, Oreos are great and they can be good in moderation, but like I needed to be able to identify like I need to work on self-control and like the impulse and not like I according to Nabisco, I'm an entire family. I can knock out a 4 pack of Oreos within like 2 hours.
Uh,
Um God. Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about that.
oh man, yeah. But thinking about that as well, like yeah, we talked about Oreos a lot, but we also, I have to say, it probably was at least double digits the number of times I said, just go for 5 minutes.
Yes.
You know,
Huh?
go for five. I really don't want to do this workout. I really don't want to do this walk. Just do 5 minutes. See if you feel a little bit better. If you do, go another 5 minutes.
Hmm.
And I think that's just one of those simple strategies that people neglect and they overlook. It's like, just start.
Yeah.
Set the bar in a manageable way. It's like if you hate running, and you've got a long way to go, just picking a little target just right out there in the distance. And I'm going to run to there. And if I'm just absolutely dying, I'll stop.
Yeah.
You give yourself that out and you get there and you're like, I can go a little further. Let me pick that next thing. Let me pick that next target and that next target. So you're looking at losing 70 pounds, 80 pounds, 90 pounds, 100 pounds. That's a really big number.
Yeah.
Well, why would you wait and delay celebrating until you've hit that goal? Why not set a smaller goal? I'm going to lose the first 5 pounds,
Yeah.
then the 7, then the 10, and you start to add and you build momentum. And now all of a sudden, instead of focusing in on this big thing that feels so far off, you've got a small manageable target that you've set along the way. And I think that's the value in having outside perspective, because sometimes in the moment, when we're emotionally really attached to whatever our goal is, particularly when it comes to health, even more so than profession, I think, because I've set these goals professionally and personally. I think personally, they're way more tangible. You have a lot more investment.
Mhm.
And when you feel like you're struggling in that moment, it's so easy to doubt and second guess
Yeah.
and say, I'm throwing in the towel. Versus you have that support system you were talking about that's able to come along and say, hey, that still small voice, hey, just go 5 minutes.
Hmm. I remember like when I hit 245, it had taken me like a month or two to get to that point. Um, and I was like, I don't like that I'm not losing more weight faster. Like, now I've gone from 270 to 245. Like that, like, I mean, a lot has happened to get, like, I had to take a first step. I then needed to start being more mindful. Like, and there was a lot of work that took to get there. I just saw the number. You're like, John, like, that's a big deal. Like, that's what, 15, getting close to 20, 25, 30, like, this is weight that you're no longer carrying, and you're setting yourself up with these sustainable lifestyles that you didn't have before, you weren't doing before. Like, I think realizing that there are off the scale wins too. Yeah,
Hmm.
like I would love to be like 150 right now, right? Like be one of those people in the G, like that's awesome. But like there are things that are more important to me, like being able to walk, being able to have control over my life, have a control over the food that I'm eating that I didn't have before. That's not going to show up on the scale, but I know that I now have these things.
Yeah, no, that's really valuable perspective. And I think, one, just thank you for one, being an awesome client. Two, thank you for being willing to share your story and always being so open about, whether that's just on social media or wherever, just being real with people. And I think that's powerful because, like you said, there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of people, and trust me, I get the messages
Yeah,
of people who say, well, good for you. I'm glad that works for you, but
must be nice.
must be, oh man, must be nice. And it's like that, what you're summing up as a must be nice statement was years of really intentional and hard work. So, yeah, it actually is kind of nice. And I'm not going to shy away from that. And I'm going to be bold and say, this was hard, but it's also worthwhile. And so I just appreciate your willingness to share your story and not trying to sugarcoat it and say, yes, it was super easy, the whole process. And I
I
never had any
wish.
ups and downs.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and thanks for just supporting me along the way. Like, I don't think without your like mentorship through all this, which is what it really feels like in friendship, I don't none of this really would have been possible. So thank you for showing up for me and like just being
Yeah.
here to support.
Absolutely, man. Well, final thoughts. If somebody's in a position that you were in, they've got family history of, some health problems. They're in a position that they found themselves in. How did I get here? Um, what would you recommend to them in terms of mentally, physically, emotionally? What would you say to them?
I think the first thing is just acceptance. Like for the longest time building up to that point, I'm like, no, I'm not that big. Like my life's fine. I can easily turn this around. And before I know it, I'm at this point where, like, this picture we're talking about, like, my arms are huge. I had this entire ring of fat around my body. Like, being able to move, like, my legs are getting numb going downstairs. I'm going to McDonald's every day for food. Just accepting, like, this is where I'm at right now through some of my own actions, and I need help. At that point, it's almost too overwhelming to try to attack by yourself. You don't know where to start. So I think accepting that this is where I'm at and I have to make changes if I want to live a longer life, and then finding people who can help you get to that point.
Hmm.
For me, that was like there's this guy I follow on Instagram that does help. Let me try reaching out to him and see what happens. And trying to get other people to help you, because it's not going to be something you can do on your own. There's
Yeah.
few things in life you can do on your own, let alone lose a crap ton of weight and find ways to be healthy and do an entire lifestyle change. So acceptance
Yeah.
and then the help.
Yeah. No, I love that. And just making sure that you have that supportive community is huge. Yeah. Not giving up,
No.
not giving yourself an easy out, not lying to yourself anymore.
Yeah.
I think is one of the big things. Like you said, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then all of a sudden life hits you and you realize I'm not fine.
No.
Don't overreact in that situation. Get outside perspective that
Yeah.
will help give you clarity, but also don't miss that moment.
No.
Because when you have that wake up moment and you go, holy crap, I'm not where I want to be. That's a good sign that you're ready for some kind of change in action. But it needs to be the right change. It needs to be the right action. And it's not a Biggest Loser format.
No. In the gym all day. Oh yeah.
But it's also not something that you can depend on yourself. If you got yourself into the mess, you're probably not the person that's going to be able to get you out.
No.
Right. So once you've dug yourself into a hole, you can't like undig yourself out. So you need somebody from the outside that's going to provide some kind of support structure. So whatever that looks like, whatever capacity you have, whatever resources you have available, whatever community support you can find, there are people, there are resources, there are, voices out there that will, even if it's just using YouTube and just putting in the time in terms of research and finding some good voices to listen to, people that are going to tell you the truth, the people that are going to give you good structured guidance. If you can do that, it's going to help so much in terms of making those sustainable changes. So John, thanks so much for joining. Thanks for being on. Always love to just talk to you in general, but also get to hear more of your story and more of your heart. So hope you have a great rest of your summer. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, dude.